The social media management industry is changing. The world is changing. The world of business is changing. But I don't believe that the social media management industry is going away or is becoming less important. In fact, I think that the changes in the world are making it more important than ever. I say that as somebody who has been in this industry for over a decade. I started working in the social media management world back in 2012 or so. And I've experienced plenty of ups and downs, lots of changes, many platforms coming, going, being threatened to be taken away, and so much more. So, today I want to talk about what a social media manager today, 2025 era social media manager, really needs to know, the skills that they need to possess in this very turbulent, let's say, time in social media history.
And before we hop in, I want to take a second to invite you to my free social media manager portfolio challenge. Having a good portfolio is so important if you want to get more social media management clients. And I've got a 5-day email challenge just for you. You'll get an email every day. It's going to be short and sweet and full of impactful activities that you can do, like reaching out for testimonials. I've got a script for you for that. I've got a template for actually putting your portfolio into action using Canva, and so much more. So be sure to check it out. I'll leave a link for it down in the description box or the show notes. I hope you enjoy.
I think the first thing that we need to think about is we need to start thinking like strategists, true strategists. I always hate using like social media manager as kind of the SEO term, right? That people search for, because I just don't think that it truly encompasses what I teach in the social media management accelerator and here on this channel. I don't think it encompasses everything that we need to know, but it's just kind of what people's entry points tend to be into this world. The difference between a strategist and a manager, a manager is very much somebody who might be like taking orders essentially. Hey, post this on social media, manage, watch the accounts. And that is a very important job and a very important part of what we do. But what is irreplaceable? What's something that a robot can't do, right? What's something that people will pay big money for, even if there is an economic downturn, is a strategist, is somebody who can say, all right, we're looking at what's going on in the world and what our end goal is. And I can tie together these things using social media management. I can tie together your goals with the resources that we have and the situations, the circumstances that we find ourselves in. And I can use social media to help you achieve your goals. That's building a strategy. That's putting together the puzzle pieces and being somebody who is thinking quickly on their feet, who is able to adapt to trends and what's going on and make recommendations and truly be an expert. That is what a strategist is. In order to be a strategist, I think the most important thing you need to know is how to understand data and the importance of data, how to track data, how to get in there and say, all right, we are seeing your website here. We're looking at our Google Analytics account and we're seeing that no traffic is coming from social media. So, what are we going to do to increase the amount of referrals from social? Or we're seeing that 90% of your traffic is coming from YouTube and none of it is coming from TikTok. So, I'm going to say we either need to reallocate our resources and double down on YouTube, or we need to change our TikTok strategy so that we're actually seeing some tangible results from it, right? Those are all types of questions and types of experiments that a strategist would put together. We all probably do some of that. We all have seen ourselves saying, I really wish my client would stop posting on TikTok and double down on YouTube because that's what's working. But do we brand ourselves as a strategist, as somebody who's going to make those recommendations? Do we feel secure enough to say, listen, we need to have a moment here and reevaluate the strategy? That's really the difference. So we need to start thinking like a strategist. We need to start positioning ourselves as a strategist because, again, those are the things that people will pay big money for. If you can say you are leaving money on the table, or I know how to make you more money, economic downturn or not, people will pay for it. Okay, the second thing I think we need to do is diversify our skill set. Back in my day, back in the early days when I first started on social media, it was like such a niche thing that I knew how to edit a photo. Like I would like crop a photo and like and people were like, "Oh my gosh, that's so cool that you know how to do that." Nope. That is like just a part of the job nowadays. And we can fight about it. We can argue about it all day long, whether or not social media managers or strategists should be dipping their toes into the graphic design world, into the video editing world or not, but the facts are if you have those skill sets, even just, a little bit, if you know enough to be dangerous, like I like to say, you're going to stand out from other candidates. You just are. We can argue whether or not they need to be hiring multiple people and blah, 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 blah. But the fact that I can say, I know how to edit a video, I know how to take a video, I need to know how to take a photo, edit a video, write captions, that puts me ahead of other candidates if I'm applying for a job or if I'm pitching to a client. It simply does. You don't need to know how to do everything or be an expert at all of those things. I think it's important, if you have an interest. Like I was always just drawn to the visual side of social media. I went to school for film. I've always just been like into design. I've always built my own websites and things like that. So it's probably advantageous for me to take a graphic design course or take a Squarespace course or something like that that'll teach me, just how to take my skills a little bit further than just social media. I think we're also seeing this trend, speaking of that, where especially like a lot of young people are really getting off of social media. They're getting really burnt out of social media. And therefore, I think it is important that we are experimenting with other ways to reach people that are in marketing or digital marketing, maybe SMS text marketing, maybe email marketing, maybe out of home marketing. So, billboards. Did you know that you can order billboards and design billboards? Those are all things that you can use to your advantage when you're working with a client and take you being like very siloed and very specific into just one thing and be able to give your clients massive results. And again, just demonstrate that you are a true expert, that you're not just the social media girl, the social media intern, which drives me nuts when we hear that. But right, we can think bigger, we can expand beyond that, we can have true, tangible business results. So, yeah, think about those things. Like, what are you drawn to? If you're maybe not as drawn to the visual side, maybe you are very drawn to the data side. So, you take a Google Analytics course or you take a data analysis course or an Excel course or something like that so you can deliver really sophisticated, fancy reports to your clients. But those are just give you additional things to lead with, to sell with, to showcase your expertise in. And it also gives you more avenues to potentially pivot if that needs to be the case. I've got a course for social media managers. It's called the Social Media Management Accelerator, but it really is more than just a course. Yes, it's a course, but there's also a community. There's also coaching with me every month. And in that course, it was really important for me to not just put social media stuff in there, right? Yes, we talk about Instagram and TikTok and strategy and all the things, but we also talk about Google Analytics. We also talk about creating content on site with your clients. We also talk about graphic design and copywriting. These are all things that are very important in my experience and opinion to, again, at least know enough to be dangerous, at least be able to say, hey, maybe we could make that copy a little bit more exciting. I've got this copywriting book that I learned about from my course with Latasha, and we're going to revamp this hook to make it more engaging. Even if you're using an AI tool and you're seeing what it's spitting out at you, you can use those rules that you apply and make it even better. You know the principles of graphic design. So you're not putting something out just that's a Canva template or that's just bad, poorly designed, that you can actually make something kind of scrappy and really impact your clients. So, very important to diversify your skill set beyond just here's what the TikTok algorithm wants. Here's what the Instagram algorithm wants. You see what I'm saying? Another thing I think is really important in today's world is to focus on authority and authenticity in your content strategies. I think in your own content strategy as a social media manager, when you're going out and pitching for clients, I think it's really important. We kind of talked about that authority piece of like being able to say, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I am a strategist. I know this space well. But I think also when you are thinking about what you're going to post for your clients, it's not about the trends and the wide, funny things so much anymore. I'm not saying that has no place. Entertainment content very much is some nice reprieve for people, I think, in the heaviness of the world. And it can be important, especially depending on what it is that you are selling and doing. However, we want to know why you are irreplaceable, why your client is irreplaceable. Why the heck should we be following a hair care brand on Instagram when there are a zillion hair care brands on Instagram, right? Like, what is their unique positioning? What is the unique thing that they're bringing to the table? Because it can't just be another meme or another funny dance. It can't just be another trending audio. You really have to figure out a way to differentiate both yourself and your clients from all the other people in their market and on the noisy world of social media. So I think for for a lot of brands I think this means developing an original content series or style, podcast for example, a YouTube series, an interview series, something like that where it's like you wanna I was just talking to one of my clients, and he was like, "I wanna be the call her daddy for blah, blah, blah," insert his industry. That's what you want. You want people to be saying, "I wanna be the blah, blah, blah for blah, blah, blah," the Netflix for this, the call her daddy, the, freelance Friday for welders, I don't know. But you want to be so well branded that you are like the pinnacle of that format. You know what I mean? So, yeah, I think that means sticking to something. That means looking at the data and sticking to a format, sticking to a platform that performs well and that you can rinse and repeat and that you can really start to be known for over time, or that your client can really start to be known for over time. I also think that short form content is here to stay, absolutely. But once you find short form content that is working well for you, elevate it. How can you make it better than just a handheld iPhone video or photo, right? Does this mean blowing out your TikTok series into a podcast, into a YouTube series, into a compilation series? Like, think about those things. And then also the authenticity piece, I think is important to talk about because we are in this wild world of AI. And as much as you can differentiate yourself, your skills, your style from what an AI tool can do, the better. I also predict, I talked about this at the beginning of the year in my social media predictions video. I very much predict a pendulum swing to where, and I'm already seeing it a lot, where people are going to be seeking out human generated, authentic content. I personally don't want to learn from a robot. Like, why would I want? uh, Let me rephrase this. I don't want to watch a YouTuber who's reading off a script generated by a robot. I would just go to the robot, just go straight to the source if I want that, right? I wanna watch YouTubers who are sharing their lived experiences, who are sharing their unique perspectives, their unique inspiration, who are entertaining me or whatnot. So think about that with your brands too. Don't just give them scripts based off of ChatGPT. Sure, if that helps you come up with ideas, awesome, but find out how to tap into their unique genius and find out how to tap into yours as well. Authenticity will help you win. Be agile. That's my next tip. Things are happening every single day. It's been hard for me, honestly, to even batch content for this podcast, for example, because every week it's like something new is happening and it's hard to keep up. And so when I say be agile, I mean don't over batch or over plan. And this does kind of go against what I typically teach. I typically am like, yes, batch ahead of time, be always 10 steps ahead, In this current climate, we've got to slow down a little bit. You should have the basics planned, right? You should know your content pillars. You should know your company values. You should know your tone and voice and style and all of that. You should build out templates that can easily be swapped out and customized in Canva and tools like that. Absolutely. But should you have every single day's posts planned out for the next 31 days in detail, I don't know. You might be moving things around a lot, you know? Imagine if you did that for TikTok when TikTok was gonna be banned and then now it's back and then it still might be banned and then you gotta be a little bit more flexible, I think. And so again, that means for me planning out broadly, yes, I have an idea for kind of what's going on, but I'm not necessarily gonna be taking action. Like I'm not gonna make a Mother's Day TikTok today because we don't know if TikTok will be around on Mother's Day or what's gonna be working on that platform during that weekend a month or so away from now. You know what I mean? So don't overbatch, don't overplan. Yes, batch, know those evergreen pieces of brand content. So those messages that do not change no matter what's going on in the world, those formats that are tried and true, batch those things for sure, but leave room in your calendars for flexibility, for change, for adaptation. I think another thing for social media managers, to think about is you guys know that I mean, my podcast is called Freelance Friday. I'm a big advocate for freelancing. I think it's given me freedom that I've never experienced before. It has given me income that wouldn't be possible for me, frankly, if I stayed in the corporate world. However, I think it is important that we stay open, let's just say, that we don't rule things out. I talked about on my other podcast, Content Creator Confessions, that I recently applied for a job because it was my dream job. I didn't get it. I didn't even hear back, which I do feel a little salty about, but I didn't fully rule it out. Not because I needed the money, not because my business is not doing well, but because you never know. Like the world is very much changing. And what I said in that podcast is that, when I left my corporate job, it was rare to even be able to work from home. Nowadays, all of these positions are fully distributed, fully remote. It's just a very different world than when I left the corporate world. That doesn't mean I want to go back unless it is truly the perfect job. But I'm just saying be open minded. And especially when we think about economic downturns and potential changes to the economy, it doesn't mean we need to be scared or terrified or that it's definitely, everything's going downhill. But just keep an open mind. If somebody comes up to you and has the dream job, maybe pitch for it, maybe apply for it. I think that it's okay to not rule out different job types, different working styles, even different departments or different, job titles. Like I said, maybe you don't want to be a social media manager. Maybe you want to be an analyst. Maybe you want to be a designer. These are all things that getting exposure to the social media world, they're going to help you, right? They're going to expand your horizons and open up doors for you that you may have never even thought were possible. Lastly, I think it is so important to manage your mindset. I just think there's never been a more exciting time to be a social media manager, truly, or strategist or marketer. There truly has not been because there are just so many new things happening and it is like a new world out there, but it's also honestly never been more stressful either. Everything's changing. Change is stressful. Change is hard. We don't know if we're going to be good at the next platform or the next thing, or if AI is going to do this or that, or if we're going to like it, or if clients are going to be into it, or it is very stressful. And so I would say, don't forget to unplug. I say this all the time, but truly, don't forget to unplug, manage your devices. So, have a work phone and a personal phone, or a work iPad and a personal phone, or vice versa. Have safe spaces. Go analog when you need to unwind. I really, really, over the past year, have been trying to fully unplug on weekends. Like, I don't get on Instagram, I don't get on threads. I have my safe scrolling sites like Reddit. I don't follow anything marketing or social media related. It's just like, honestly, like pop culture, like music news and stuff like that. Read books, talk to your friends, hug people, hug yourself. I don't know, go for walks, touch grass. I truly think there has just never been a more important time to share that message because it can feel very overwhelming when you hear about like just all of the rumors, all the gossip, all the changes, it just gets very, very overwhelming and scary. I think the other thing that's important is to develop a community of people who you can go to. In 2020, when everything was happening, everything was shutting down, we were all losing clients left and right. Everybody thought like we were like this was it. Like this was it for our businesses for sure, but potentially even for humanity. I was a part of a mastermind with my then coach. She no longer does business coaching, but her name's Hillary Rushford. And truly, I don't know what I would have done if I didn't have that mastermind during that time because it was very overwhelming and very scary. And having her to lean on, having the other members who were all in business and all going through the exact same things as me to lean on, to commiserate with, to support each other was truly life changing. So I will forever be grateful to Hillary for that. And yeah, d- cultivate a community of people who you can lean on, who you can talk about these changes with, who you can kind of share tricks of the trade with, who you can share referrals with. That is so, so important. And of course, I invite you to join mine in the social media management accelerator. But if you're not able to, or you're not interested in that, cultivate it yourself. Like go to local business events, reach out to people who you admire, build your own kind of support group. But I think I've got a pretty good one curated as well that I'd love to have you think about. So, anyway, that's my advice for social media managers in this current state. Let me know if you have any questions about anything or if you have any advice. I would love it if you left a comment for the other social media managers out there. And thanks so much for tuning in to the Freelance Friday podcast. You can always subscribe to my YouTube channel, the podcast, leave a comment, share it with a friend. Really helps a lot. And I will see you in the next one. Bye.